My mom has type 2 diabetes. This is her story, part 2. So as I was saying, if you haven't watched the previous part, go check out my page. It's on there. We were in the emergency room. The doctor diagnosed her with type 2 diabetes and she was admitted. Started an insulin drip and stuff like that. And she was in the hospital for a couple of days. On the day of her discharge, her blood sugars, so her blood sugar readings have now been able to read on the glucometer, that, the finger stick test. So her blood sugar was reading now, and at discharge, her blood sugar was in the 300s. And so on the day of her discharge, my mom doesn't read or write English. She doesn't speak English. She speaks broken English. And so the entire time she was in the hospital, when the doctor was rounding, they either call me if I'm not there, or if my husband is there or another family member is there, they will use them as the interpreter. On the day of discharge, I get up there. They took good care of her. I will give them that. But what I was disappointed by is the way the discharge process went, because the nurse came in, Josie, this is your mom, you're her healthcare power of attorney, blah, blah, blah. This is a list of prescriptions to pick up from the pharmacy, and yeah, you're good to go. So I was like, have you had any conversation with my mom today since you took on this shift? No, because no one was here. I know she can't speak English. There are interpreters for that. There are interpreters for the language that she understands. You didn't make any attempt to call and get an interpreter to try and explain her discharge summary to her in a language that she understands. That's wrong. I wouldn't do that. And you're just handing me a pile of paper with discharge instructions. How do you know I read English? Just because I speak it don't mean I read it or write it, right? That's not my case. I say this to say there's room for improvement in our healthcare system, in the way things are processed. Because if I were not who I am or who I was becoming in the healthcare field, my mom would not have gotten the best care outside the hospital at home because of lack of understanding of the disease process and also the language barrier. But anyway, my mom was discharged. We took her home. We continued checking her blood sugar. At discharge, her A1C was around 13.6, and her blood glucose levels, like the finger stick blood glucose level, was around in the 300s when she was discharged. We continued that at home. One of the things that shocked my mom the most is she realized that, hey, I'm going to be injecting myself with insulin every day and poking my finger 4 times a day for the rest of my life. She's like, what caused this? I'm like, Mom, nobody knows. There are a lot of things. And my mom's family, like, nobody knows family history like that unless, I don't know. My grandpa was blind, but it wasn't diabetes because he was blind for years before he died. So it wasn't diabetic related. It was more like glaucoma or something like that. My grandma stayed pretty healthy. She had vision problems too. But it wasn't related to hypertension, diabetes, or cholesterol, none of that. My grandma's only issues was her vision. So was my grandpa. And they were old. Like, my grandma died like 14 years ago. She was old. My mom is in her late 70s, and her mom died 10 years ago. Not 10 years, about 15 years ago. So that's how old my grandma was. She was way up there. And she just died of natural causes. But my mom's A1C gradually dropped. So like I said, she had just migrated, so she had no insurance. We're trying to get her insurance. And sometimes getting insurance for someone who's already in their 60s is difficult. There are certain zip codes that you cannot buy insurance in the market, on the marketplace. Did you know that? Did you know, depending on your zip code, you might not be able to buy insurance directly from the marketplace, like the insurance market, not Obamacare, no, not that, like the regular insurance companies. do not sell insurance to every zip code in America. So depending on where you live, yeah, you either get it through your job or, stuff like that. So my mom, I tried, I eventually got her something, but it wasn't enough. So sometimes we would use community health clinic, community health centers, and some of them would help with her medication, like give samples, because medications like insulin, very expensive. Her insulin was, if we were to pay for everything out of pocket, just the insulin was about $1,000 a month for a month's supply. So it was a lot, in addition to other medications, doctor's visits, paid out of pocket because she didn't have insurance. But eventually we found this community health clinic that really helped her. We didn't have to pay any copay. It was voluntary to make any payments. And so I would make a payment. I would pretend that I went to the doctor and I had to pay out of pocket, and made a payment, like a donation type payment to the clinic. And she was seeing a nurse practitioner there, and she really helped. So eventually her blood glucose level came down gradually, and her A1C was stayed in the 10s and 9s and 11 for a very long time while we tried to manage her blood sugar. And she's doing much better now and no longer on the insulin. But this video is already too long, so I guess I have to come back and do part 3. So stay tuned and subscribe to my page, follow my channel, turn on your notifications so you get notified when I post the next part and other videos to help you understand a little bit about type 2 diabetes and what the journey looks like for someone who has experienced it through a family member.